Hey guys, Technomentary with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Mini 5 in mid 2021 and if it's worth it to buy. If you're looking for an iPad in the mid 2021, all the good things that you need to know about the Mini and also the bad thing about the Mini 5 right now. But before we dive into today's video, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways, so make sure that like and subscribe button. Also, if you guys are in the market for an iPad at a discounted price, make sure you guys check out the link in the description section. So without further ado, let's talk about the Mini 5 in mid 2021. Well, why are we talking about this Mini in mid 2021? Well, it's because it's the latest version of the Mini series that Apple has. If you know, we have the Pro here next to it, and then of course the iPhone here. The Mini 5 was released back in March of 2019, so almost little over 2 years since the Mini 5 was released, and there are some really unique features that come with the Mini 5 when it was released. Of course, one of the things being it is the smaller of the iPad. So if you have a regular iPad or the Pro lineup or the Air lineup, all of those were bigger size, more compared to the Mini. The Mini here is a 7.9 Retina display one. It has a 12 Bionic chip versus the newer iPhone lineup or the newer devices with the A14 Bionic chip. So 2 generation behind in terms of the actual chipset on it. And the other thing to note about the Mini 5 is that it does support the Apple Pencil. Unfortunately, it supports only the first generation of the Apple Pencil. It doesn't support the second generation of the Apple Pencil. And besides even some of the other key notable features is the camera. It does have a both front and back main camera. The one thing about the back camera is that it's only 8 megapixel camera, so not literally a heavy duty in terms of camera. The front facing camera for your selfies, your FaceTime, your virtual online classes, it's only 7 megapixel FaceTime camera. So camera wise, not the greatest comparing to some of the newer devices that have that 12 megapixel camera to it. And of course, the other noticeable feature on this iPad is that 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Of course, that jack for that lossless music play compared to the Thunderport, which the newer devices have. And besides some of the other things to talk about is the battery life of this device. So the battery on this gets you around somewhere between 10 to 12 hours of simple usage. So if you're browsing around, simply using apps like you're supposed to, not like heavy gaming, because of course if you're doing heavy gaming, you're going to be draining that battery much quicker than if you're just simply using it for social media, maybe just light browsing, things like that. Of course, that won't really require too much of that. And the other thing about this iPad is the fact that it's under $400 if you look in the market right now. So you're getting pretty much a device that's the latest version with iOS 14 for under $400 compared to some of the newer iPads out there like the Pro and the Air lineup, which starts at almost $600-700. And of course, if you're not looking at the Mini, if you're looking for the regular AirPods, of course that you can get the 8th generation for about $300 or so, depending on the storage capacity you get. And talking about the storage capacity on this one, there's multiple configuration of storage you can get. By base, this one is a 64 gig one. Of course, you can get 128 gig as well for bigger storage. It comes in both cellular and Wi-Fi. This is a Wi-Fi only model, but you can certainly get the cellular one for cellular support. So let's talk about a couple things. So why might this be a good choice for you? Well, there's a couple reason why. If you're using it for school, it's definitely a good device for just editing documents or looking over documents, reviewing your class notes, and even for your maybe virtual online classes. So if you need to get on Zoom, Skype, maybe WebEx, depending on whatever the virtual platform that you're using, even Google Meet, all of those are supported. But because it's only a 7 megapixel camera, might not be the greatest when it comes to showing your face on there, because 7 megapixel isn't that great. And so school wise, it definitely gets the job done for you. You're able to do all of that editing, even downloading PDFs. You can definitely go ahead and read your PDFs and do that as well. And talking about school now, let's talk about work. Is a good device for work? certainly is, definitely is a good device. Like we mentioned, you can do it for your conference calls or for whatever you need to do, multitasking. You're able to use most of the productivity tool that you need to do work, like Microsoft Word, Excel, all of those. Or if you're just simply using it to browse around on the internet, you can do that as well. So work wise, it's a good laptop. And let's talk about gaming wise. Is this a good iPad for gaming? Well, when it comes to lighter games, so games that don't require too much graphic for it, is definitely, you get the job done and much more. You're able to play most of your games without any issues on it. So that's going to be a key factor for this device. The one thing we will say is that once you start getting into more graphic heavy games like PUBG or like some of the mainstream ones like Call of Duty that are meant to be played on the actual console, you start to notice a little bit of lag, because it is a A12 Bionic chip, and that chip itself compared to the A14 Bionic chip, of course, lags in terms of speed. So gaming wise, lighter gaming, good. Once you start getting into heavier gaming, probably not the best device for that. And let's talk about using it for social media. As you can see, most of the popular social media apps you can download easy, no problem. But that's because we are running the latest version of the iOS on it. So if you're running iOS 14, and that's where the key thing about this iPad is that if it's running the latest version of iOS, all the apps will be downloaded, unlike some of the older iPad mini, which only supports up to iOS 12, which we start to see them losing some of the support for it. And the other great thing about this one when it comes to social media is that all of the devices that you would have for your social media on your phone, you can simply use it here. Although you'll see things like Instagram, for example, the ratio here slightly off, but you can make it bigger up to here, but still there's that sort of gap in between the sides. So you're going to notice that with even with things like Snapchat here, same thing. You miss some of that pieces there, like it's not full resolution, but nonetheless it gets that job done. All of your other social media, even for TikTok, it's a good device. You can use it to make TikTok, watch TikTok, and as you can see, TikTok here has a full screen, so you can use it for TikTok. Well, now let's move on talking about what other can you do. For probably a great device, like most people use the iPad for, is streaming video. So if you're using it to watch YouTube videos like the one here, or simply watching movies on Netflix or Hulu, Disney Plus, pick your favorite streaming platform, all of that is good. And this device, it's a bump up. If you're a smaller iPhone, it definitely is a bump up when you're looking, and it's really lightweight. So when you're moving around, as you can see here, it's really thin, so you can move around, go anywhere with it. You can even simply fit it into your pockets, depending on if you have a little bigger jeans and such. You can actually fit this in, and we tried that. We were able to fit this into our pockets, and we were able to go with it. And when it comes to music streaming, of course, it does that well as well. You can see here we were able to open Pandora here. Simply you can listen to your music, Spotify, Apple Music, and because it has that 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, if you're using the headphone jack, you're able to listen to lossless music, unlike the Thunderbolt, where we have seen complaints about music loss in terms of the transition when it comes up to your ear. So that's one thing you probably noticed. So music wise and gaming wise, this MacBook, this MacBook, but iPad definitely gets that job done and much more for you. So if you're looking for an iPad, like you mentioned, for all of those things, it's good. Let's talk about some of the stuff where it starts to be a challenge with this device. Why it might be a challenge for you? Well, first thing is when it comes to photography. So although this iPad here does good job when it comes to photo editing, so you're actually able to edit your photos, no issues. But when it comes to video editing, this is where it becomes a little bit more challenging to do video editing, because it's smaller and older hardware, the A12 Bionic chip. It's not really a great device for video editing, although it can be done. But if on the 1080p, but once you start hitting 4K, you're going to notice that this iPad isn't quite able to do those editing and starts to slow down a bit, and you're going to have to be patient, and depending on if you have a big or large file, you're going to be waiting much longer for it to do that for you. So that's one challenge. The next thing about this iPad that we think Apple could have improved is having support for the Apple Pencil 2. So as you can see here, the Apple Pencil 2, the way it charges and does everything here, they can see it's not supported here, and that's disappointing from Apple, because with Apple Pencil 2 versus the one, there's a lot more advantage when it comes to taking notes and all of that and much more, and that's something we can't do with this iPad, and quite frankly, that's disappointing for us. The other thing to note is that it doesn't support your smart keyboard. So if you have a smart keyboard, it's not going to support that, although it does support the smart covers, not the keyboard itself, which makes it not a device that can replace your laptop or your MacBook. Next, bad, not really bad, is that although it does have Touch ID, it doesn't have Face ID, and all of the devices nowadays come with Face ID, and because it doesn't have Face ID, we kind of think it's probably not the way to go, but definitely Face ID helps the device. And lastly, might not be a good option for you is that if you already have one of the Max iPhone, what do we mean by if you have like an iPhone 11 Pro Max, 12 Pro Max, which you're holding here, if you compare the screen size here, you notice that the Pro Max here pretty much covers what this iPad is doing for you. So why you would want to get this iPad mini if you already have one of this iPhone like the 12 Pro Max doesn't really make sense, because you're really not getting much screen space out of it. So it really, the iPhone does it for you, and you might get a little bit of space, but you might be looking at a bigger device like the Pro or the Air Edition or the regular iPad. And lastly is that compared to the bigger size 8th generation, which right now you can get it for $300, the 32 gig and a little bit more depending on if you get more storage, the mini here costs even slightly higher in the $400 range. So might make more sense if you get the 8th generation, which is a little bit newer, which was released last year, compared to a mini which was released 2 years ago. So there's a review for it, guys. Hopefully this review was helpful for you guys determining if the Mini 5 is the right choice for you in mid-2021. Want to hear from you guys. If you guys used the Mini 5, had experience with it, leave a comment in the comment section. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.